Namaste. I am grateful, Sensei of Grateful Dojo. And this is day 11 of my 1,000-day adventure creating a video every day. Now, I want to make another video continuing on the last one about love. In the last video I was talking about the idea of my hypothesis of love being, wouldn't it be easier if there was a simple, clear definition of love? And what I came to, or what I was talking about in that video, is love has so many different definitions, different people giving ideas of it. You can't find one single definition of it. And the reason for that is we all have a perception of what love is. And nobody has the same perception because we all have different paths of how we were raised and grown up. That's why it's so confusing in love. That's why we have agape love, relationship love, friendship love, unconditional love for a child, marriage love, dating love. Let me tell you, when you get into the world of dating and just trying to communicate with women to possibly build something, yeah, it's really confusing. So that's why I came up with the hypothesis, and I have a theory about it. Now, I said that our idea of love comes from our perception, and that is mainly from age 0 to 7. And then what happens after that? Let me give you a real quick history of what happened to me. My father was military. My father had a vision of love that can be summed up in a meeting that he and I had before I went to bed. We're on this 3rd grade. My brother and I would go to our parents before we go to bed. We'd give them a hug, say we love them, and off to bed we'd go. Well, this one night, I was the older of the 2 of us, and my brother went and hugged him, said goodnight, they loved you, go off. I go to my father, give him a hug, and he said, son, it's time that we stop hugging and start shaking hands like a man. That really stunned me, and it kind of changed my relationship with my father from that time forward. I talked to my mother later on about that, and when I was older, and she says she remembered that, and that moment really bothered her. When I was in about my 40s, I had a talk with my father, and he brought up about a time in his life that was exactly like what he did with me. So my father's idea of love was passed on from his father to him, and he passed it on to me. So I came up with this strange side of love from my father. My mother was a very loving person. She did everything she could for me to show me that she loved me. She always told me she loved me. I had pretty much everything I needed from my mother, and I knew it was because she loved me. So I had this weird thing of love. And now as I get into dating, what's interesting, and I won't go too long on it, I was married 3 times. We simply grew apart. What I find fascinating looking back at it and looking at my first relationship and my first kiss. My first kiss was a girl gave it to me because somebody asked if I'd ever been kissed. I said no, and she kissed me. Years later, she introduced me to the girl who would become my first wife. My second wife came to me because my mother and her mother introduced us. My third wife contacted me on Match.com. I've only had 3 relationships short in the last 10 years. All of those have been women approaching me. Now, I've been sitting here today looking at that and going, okay, how does that relate to love and you know what I was talking about? And then all of a sudden it just hit me, and it was mainly because of a comment on the last YouTube video where somebody says they really like the ideas I put out in the video, and as they say, and she just switched it around a little bit, love is in the eye of the beholder. And I went, oh, okay, I see that. You know, everyone's view and perception of love is different. And then I all of a sudden realized, wait a minute, I don't have to figure out my past about love, because my hypothesis of love is, wouldn't it be easier if there was a simple, clear definition of love? And you know what? I do have a theory about love, and everything I have put up against and tested it has worked. And I'm going to tell you about that in one of the upcoming videos. In the next video, I want to talk to you about why I started seeing love the way I did. When I looked into science, into sound, into frequencies, into Reiki, into all of these different patterns and things, love shows up at an exact place, and it's fascinating why it would show up there. And that led me to my theory of love. So I hope you'll join me in my next video as I go in deeper into this idea of love, which helped me come up with my theory of love. And that's it for now. As always, I am grateful. Namaste.